The Shadow of the Eagle, Lessons from Indonesia and a Greenland Hypothesis. The relationship between global powers and resource-rich nations often follows a familiar script, one of strategic interest, economic leverage, and profound local transformation. The history of US influence over the mineral and hydrocarbon wealth of Indonesia during the Cold War provides a stark template. Today, as geopolitical focus shifts toward the Arctic, a speculative but compelling question arises. Could Greenland, with its vast untapped minerals and strategic location, witness a similar dynamic, especially if the premise of US military protection enters the equation? The Indonesian case study, Resources and Alignment. Following Indonesia's independence, its immense reserves of tin, nickel, copper, and later oil and gas became a focal point in the Cold War. The US, determined to prevent a communist-aligned Indonesia and secure resources for its allies and industry, played a decisive role. The 1965 to 1966 regime change, followed by President Suharto's New Order, opened a decades-long chapter of Western-friendly investment. US companies, often with government backing, gained significant access. The giant Grasberg copper and gold mine, discovered by a US geologist and eventually operated by the American firm Freeport-McMoran, became the most iconic example. While bringing revenue, this model was frequently criticized for environmental damage, uneven wealth distribution, and a close alignment of US foreign policy with the stability of the extractive regime, sometimes at the expense of broader democratic pressures. The influence was not merely corporate, it was strategic. Access to resources helped anchor Indonesia within the US sphere of influence, ensuring stability of supply chains and denying strategic assets to the Soviet bloc. Greenland's current paradigm, state sovereignty and strategic desire. Greenland presents a contrasting starting point. As a self-governing territory within the Kingdom of Denmark, it holds sovereign rights over its subsurface resources. The state-owned company Nuna Oil manages licensing and partnerships. This model is designed to ensure that the immense potential of rare earth elements, rubies, uranium, and hydrocarbons benefits Greenlandic society directly, fostering its economic independence and path toward greater autonomy. However, Greenland sits at the center of a new great game. Its location commands the Arctic's emerging waterways, and its minerals are critical for modern technology, from electric vehicles to military hardware. The US has historically shown keen interest, most famously with a failed attempt to purchase the island in 1946. Today, its strategic desire is reflected in the reopening of the US consulate in Nuuk and substantial US investment in mineral exploration. The hypothetical, protection as a lever for change. This is where the historical parallel meets modern speculation. Greenland's defense and foreign policy remain largely with Denmark, a NATO ally. But as Arctic tensions rise with Russian militarization and increased Chinese interest, a narrative could emerge internally or externally, framing Greenland as uniquely vulnerable. A hypothetical scenario could unfold as follows. 1. The offer. The US, emphasizing new Arctic threats, proposes a significantly enhanced permanent military presence, an expanded Thule air base, new naval facilities, or an integrated missile defense network. This is framed not as a NATO obligation, but as a discrete, costly service for Greenland's direct security. 2. The burden. The Greenlandic government, with a tiny population and limited budget, is presented with a bill for hosting or maintaining this protection, or pressured to contribute more to its own defense. 3. The quid pro quo. Facing this financial pressure, Greenland might be steered toward a solution, attracting massive, rapid foreign direct investment to its mining sector to generate state revenue. The US could facilitate this by encouraging its companies and allies to invest, while simultaneously advocating for legal and regulatory reforms that prioritize speed and scale over stringent state ownership or environmental safeguards. 4. The shift. The principle of state-led development could gradually erode, replaced by a model prioritizing foreign investment and output. Licensing rounds could favor well-connected international consortia. The strategic imperative of securing critical mineral supply chains for the US and its allies could override local governance preferences, echoing the Cold War era prioritization of resource access and denial. A different era, similar dynamics. Crucially, the world is not the same as the 1960s. Greenland has a vigilant, politically active population deeply concerned with sovereignty and environmental stewardship. International norms, though fragile, provide more tools for transparency and accountability. Denmark's role adds a complicating European layer. Yet the fundamental equation of power remains when a superpower's urgent strategic interest, be it containing communism or securing tech-critical minerals and Arctic dominance, intersects with a resource-rich region's financial or security vulnerability, pressure can manifest in profound ways. The experience of Indonesia reminds us that influence over resources is rarely just business. It is a geopolitical tool, often wrapped in narratives of security and development. For Greenland, the challenge will be to navigate this new attention without having its hard-won control over its mineral wealth become the currency with which it pays for its place in a new, increasingly tense Arctic order. The lesson from the tropics is clear. The terms of protection must be scrutinized with extreme care, lest they quietly rewrite the rules of ownership.